I know that all of your successes so far have led you to Bala, but how'd you get here? And could you give us a little background on your story?
Yes. So I come from a family of English professors, and ever since I can remember, I've been with a book. So I thought I would follow in the path of all the women in my family to become an English professor as well, because I loved reading and I loved writing and I loved learning about the world through words. And it was during my master's in English that I came across some folk tales that were talking about women and power and inheritance of property and like gender at large. And that got me thinking, and that led to me working on my thesis on that very topic. And got me thinking about, I felt that a lot of academia was you making commentary on society and offering recommendations as to what we can change and how we can do that. But it kind of gets stuck in the circle of academia. So I wanted to combine words and language and writing with actually doing the work. So it was right after my master's that I joined a nonprofit, and I absolutely loved it and I did not turn back from there. So slightly strayed away from the path of being a professor. But that's where I come in. I think I'm able to bring in the theory that I was exposed to in terms of how societies are formed, a lot of sociology, a lot of psychology, economics, and I'm able to bring those theories into actual practice. So I was about completing maybe I think around 4 years in the nonprofit, and I thought that it's kind of becoming my comfort zone, and I want to push myself out there and change trajectories again. And took a sabbatical of about 2 months, and then the job search and like started seeing what's out there and what I could apply for. And I saw this one opportunity with this organization that, of course, is working on menstrual health. And until now, I had been working with young children who were out of the school system. So, getting them to a place where they could feel comfortable to re enter the school education system. And I was also working with elders and seniors who had been abandoned by their families. So, to demographics right to the ends of the spectrum. And here was an opportunity on a topic that I had not worked on, and also an age group that I had not worked with. And I thought that, hey, I don't know anything about this space, but I want to learn. So I applied. And yeah, it's been 4 years at Bala now, and I lead communications and outreach. So again, it's a combination of using language, but also doing the work. And I use storytelling and communication to build partnerships and also build tools for social change. So right now, where I'm at, I'm essentially, if I had to put it in a nutshell, I'm amplifying conversations on menstrual health and reproductive health to change the systems where they're currently at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you weren't complacent. That's impressive. Um, I know, I know you said one of your first memories of activism was when you were reading, but do you have a specific first like memory of you taking part in activism? It could be big or small.
Um, I mean, apart from my professional space, I'm a big animal lover, and I think my parents too, and so is my sister. So I think maybe my earliest memory of activism is helping animals that have been injured in road accidents, so getting them home, fostering them, and then putting them back to their original homes once they've healed. I never understood it in the beginning, and there's a running joke in the family that whenever there's a dog or cat in our care, chicken or like whatever's cooked at home goes to them first and to
Oh,
the children second. But yeah, I think even then I understood that you must make space, or you must prioritize those who don't have access to the same resources that you have, whether they're an animal or whether they're a human being. But yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Oh. Um, when was the first or like a significant time that you recognized the disadvantages that women in general, you specifically, women around you were facing solely because of gender? And like, did you do anything about that?
Okay, so it's quite visible in Indian society or South Asian societies in general. A lot of the cooking or the housework is done by the women of the family. And if you ever go to like any party or someone's hosting a dinner at their home, it's never said, but it's a very invisible line between, okay, the men are going to sit in the drawing room, watch TV, talk about politics, and the women are going to congregate in and around the kitchen and gossip. And I would try to go sit with the men, because I'd be like, I don't know what I do in the kitchen, but even I as a young girl would be shunted off into the kitchen. So that was like in like a familial space in school also, like there were the teachers' attitudes towards boys and towards girls was very, very different. So a boy could be like extremely chaotic or disrupt the class and he would be brushed off saying, oh, he's just a boy. But a girl could do like a small thing and then she would instantly be pulled up and like suspended and things like that. I don't think I recognize that as, I don't think I had the language to understand that, okay, this is like gender discrimination or something like that, but visibly it was very obvious. And then as I grew, it just kept getting more and more clear. Like, I would start talking to my mother about why are you in the kitchen? Why aren't you outside talking about everything that the men are talking about? In small things like if we're using public transport, some of my friends used to carry safety pins in their hands, and I never understood why. So it was just that they knew that they would be exposed to some form of harassment. So that safety pin would be just their attempt at jabbing back at whoever would be doing whatever to them. So I think as I grew up, I was able to understand that this is because of gender. Until when I was a kid, I didn't know that that phrase existed, essentially.
Yeah. And it's like when you grow up witnessing something so frequently, it's not abnormal.
Yeah, it becomes normalized. Completely agree. I think when you're
Yeah.
older and when you're exposed to education or when you start talking to people from different walks of life, you understand that what you've been seeing actually does not exist in other places
Yeah.
or exists differently. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you taught about gender inequalities in school? I guess you kind of just answered that, but
Um, that's actually a great question. I'm trying to think. I would not say very overtly. Yeah, in school it was something of the past and that it doesn't exist anymore in the 21st century. So it was always taught like that. I know things have changed. So if I go back to school right now, um, even if the curricula does not talk about it very specifically, I know students are much more aware. But yeah, when I was in school, it was always, oh, it happened back in the day, but you're so lucky now because everything's okay and normal. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like also when we talk about like, oh, women joining the workforce, it's like, okay, they joined and that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, at least for me, I feel like we never specifically talked about the impacts of that on today's society. So I feel like that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your work in Ball's communications department brings up an important question about how to amplify our voices and get our messages across to communities. How effective do you think different platforms have been in spreading Ball's message?
It's been interesting to work in communications in Bala, especially when we're looking at like the digital footprint of people and tech just getting into villages that don't even have access to electricity. Um, as one of the tools that we use at the organization is, of course, social media, and I do think that has immense power. Anyone who has access to social media has a lot of power in their hands. It's a dangerous kind of power that has to be said. Um, I feel like the more we talk about things on social media, the more we're able to actually normalize talking about it. So it's almost cyclical in that sense. Um, but one or two points over here is I've learned that the mic has to be with people who are telling the story. So I should not be telling someone else's story. I should just be creating this space where they could be telling the story for themselves. Um, but I'm also thinking about how a lot of women do not have access to those tools. So it's kind of complicated where you're being very conscious about certain ideologies and certain feminisms where you want their people to speak for themselves, but you're very conscious about access and infrastructure. Simplest example is we talk a lot about using WhatsApp. Okay, like text me on WhatsApp if you have any question about your body, and I'll be able to help you out. But phones are shared in families in a lot of parts of India. And it's a singular phone, and that's more often than not in the hands of a male person or a male relative. So access, so the communication possibility is there, but the access becomes a little complicated. However, like I said, social media, incredible tool. And in this, I feel there's a larger global narrative shaping up about how children under the age of 16 should not have access to social media. And it just gets me thinking about there's a fine line between protection and between restriction. And so we try to tread that line as well while talking about menstrual health. Still figuring that out. But I feel like um, every platform has its own advantages. As an organization, we try to utilize all because we understand that different platforms are used by different people. And we try to put different messaging out on each platform so that we get the correct message out on these different platforms. I hope I answered that question. I think I
Yeah.
kind of went little,
No, it
okay,
works. It
cool.
works.
Okay.
How would you recommend going about using social media in a way so you can get out the most accurate and helpful information?
So if you're someone who's doing the storytelling, just talk about it. It's as simple as I didn't go into work today, or I didn't go into college today, or something like because of my period pain. And someone seeing that automatically thinks, oh, I didn't know we could talk about something like this on such a public facing platform. Maybe it's okay to be a little open about it. If not on social media, at least back at home. So I think if you're someone who's doing the storytelling, if you're comfortable 100%, start sharing your stories so that people see the normalization effect of it all. If you're someone who's using it, so important to vet the information. And okay, it's really kind of difficult to do that in today's age where you're still trying to figure out, oh, are these puppies AI generated or are they not? But there are still some good resources and sources. I heavily advocate for government research, research by the UN, research by WHO, because they spend time and energy into putting out as unbiased data and information as possible. So even if it's something like, um, we get a lot of queries on white discharge and is this an infection or am I okay? So I often direct them to the NHS website where it kind of talks about in very simple language about this is what you should be experiencing, this is not. And then go back to the reel that you've been watching, then to understand, okay, did it give me the correct information or not? But also, that's the power of social media, right? A lot of us don't have access to doctors or to clinicians or medical professionals. I do see some people using social media to do a lot of advocacy on stigma topics, but people are getting smarter to not give medical information. So I think we're going down that right path for now.
I agree. Thank you. I hope your story is able to inspire other women to take a stand. But if you had to start from scratch right now, like what's the first thing you would do?
Ask questions. I think and also don't get comfortable in comfort, but 100% ask questions. There's always there should I think we all know that 3-year-old child who keeps asking why or like how. I think that's a great behavior to imitate. We should constantly ask, why am I being told this information, or why am I being told this way, and why is this being hidden from me or like not given to me? So I think you need to find a niche or a problem space or an issue that you care deeply about, and you should start asking questions as to why does this exist in a certain way. Going on a little tangent, but just yesterday I was doing some research on iron levels or ferritin levels in women, and how so many women these days are experiencing either vitamin D deficiency or iron deficiency or a combination of the two. And I just sort of went down a rabbit hole of how do we understand iron deficiency. And so doctors set a range, right? That 20 to from 20 to 50, this is where your level should fall in. And so they set that level because that was a correct marker. But when women started actually getting tested, so many women did not fall into that range that they actually reduced the range to be able to accommodate their levels rather than saying that, hey, your level is actually much lower. So I would not have thought about that until someone had said, but wait, why? And so that's another tangent on I can talk about how the medical system is pro men and not pro women. Like it doesn't accommodate women. But anyway, I think ask questions because that's the coolest thing you can do in today's day and age. If you don't know where your interest lies or you don't know what questions to ask, there are so many organizations out there, youth groups doing amazing work. And I think these organizations and youth groups would love a helping hand, and they love people who ask questions because it constantly breaks your bias. So find an organization that you feel some allyship with. Everyone has a skill. I like writing, so I see it as a skill that I can use to talk about the things that I'm interested in. People are cool with drawing, art, planning, talking, I don't know, haircuts. It could be seen as something that does not fit into this space, but it could change someone's life when they're coming from from a space of, despair almost. So everyone has something to contribute. So you have everyone has immense value. And honestly, you don't have to know everything to start. Not knowing is actually a great place to start at. Advocacy and work and fighting for someone's rights does not require expertise from day one. It actually just requires commitment and passion, and maybe a little bit of consistency as well, because that's going to take you much farther than anything else.
Yeah. I feel like it can be intimidating to start out because you don't know where to go. So,
100%. I feel like these days we all think everyone else is so with it. And I don't know anything. And I feel that imposter syndrome is going to be there for almost everyone for quite a while. Let that not stop you. I think you should just keep pushing.
if you had to start right now, how would you go about finding organizations to partner with?
Um, Ooh, that's a good question because there are so many out there. I think maybe a recommendation, because I know that everyone would have at least someone in their network who would have done some kind of work. Your parents, your cousins, your friends, someone from your school. Um, I think I like organizations that are a little public facing, because then I can observe the work that they do. This is something very simple that a lot of organizations do: beach cleanups. So, like, you can just observe their work for a while and then step in. Having said that, I think it's always good to go via a recommendation, because then you know what exactly you're stepping into, even in terms of a workplace, in terms of like teammates and colleagues, but also the way the work is approached. A simple Wikipedia search can also work, but do that and then get a recommendation from someone.
Yeah,
Best of both
awesome.
worlds.
Thank you. Were there any inflection points in your story that opened doors for you or like caused you to change your approach to activism?
Oh, okay. Yes. So, my job in the first nonprofit, it was very help people, full stop. Right? So we would do like food distribution drives and, education workshops. I think that's very important. At Bala, that changed a little bit for me because it was help people help themselves. Although that's not a very good way to put it, but we didn't want the women and girls we work with to depend on us constantly. So the idea was to sit with them. So it's rather than enabler and person who receives that enabling, but more like facilitator. And I thought that was an interesting way to change things up, where um, you bring about change, but you also help people within the community to bring that change further on. So that, I feel like with the way the world is going, you're not sure about tomorrow. So if tomorrow Bala ceased to exist as an organization, the women and the girls we work with, or the people we work with, should not suffer. They should be their work should be able to live much more than the organization or the people that make it up. So I think that. I think also because specifically with the area that we're working with in terms of menstrual health and hygiene is just not a talked about topic. Like even at my home, and I had significant exposure to education and like other things, privilege. But we never really talked about periods at home. It was always, don't tell your father. You can come and tell me, mom, but don't tell your father. Don't talk to any male member, kind of suffer in silence. So to bring language and speaking to something that's hushed up was very interesting for me. So I became more focused on listening rather than talking in this job, and kind of, like I said, centering their voices rather than mine. Um, and I think it became a two-way process for me. So I listened as much as I spoke when I would do these projects. But yeah, definitely that shift away from like teacher to facilitator was a changing point for my professional journey.
Yeah, I feel like you can only do so much if you're only focused on the people that you're directly impacting. And once you change the
100%.
narrative, it makes it so much more impactful. So that's
Yeah,
great.
I agree.
Um, were there, what are some approaches that people can take like to get involved? I know we've talked about, oh, like get recommendations for organizations. But are there any small stands they can take in their daily lives or other organizations other than Vala that you'd recommend taking part in to start
Of
out?
course. Of course. Start conversations. It doesn't have to be like a conversation like at a debate level or at a school level. It could be something as small as having a chat with a sibling or a parent or a relative. It starts at home. Like, we're talking so much about period leave at the moment, menstrual leave, and like how women in the workplace should get those days off. But we're kind of not talking about at home. Okay, more in Indian context, but the mom does most of the housework, but she doesn't get a menstrual leave, right? She's still working 24/7. So how about having those conversations at home? Um, if you can give your time, that's actually much more important than anything else. So give your time to organizations, start educating yourself, of course, like I said, start asking questions. Um, and use your platform. There are endless things that you can talk about online. We share memes, we share jokes, we share movies, stuff like that. I think it's also good once in a while to also like talk about something that really is important to you. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be menstrual health. It could be that um, you saw a child that was made fun of or bullied, so you want to take a stand for that. So many of our fight, so much of our political activism is in just has actually just started from social media. So that's so cool that we can still continue to use that platform. And again, I think sometimes we get so stressed about, oh my God, I have to talk about every single thing on the planet. I must show that I'm fighting for the rights of people everywhere. I think it's okay to be kind on yourself also a little bit, and you don't have to fight every single fight every day. And that's what helps when you can find a community of people who think similar to you. So, in that shared resistance almost, or in that shared determination, I think you're able to find some community and support, and that is like next to none. So, definitely ask questions, find some organizations that you'd like to support, start having conversations where you can. There are sanitation workers in every single place that we go to. How about just have a conversation with them as to something as small as, hey, do you have access to gloves when you're cleaning up dustbins? How can we help you get gloves? Something as simple as that. Using your platform, and of course, just to be a little kind on yourself and find that community that can keep giving you that push when you feel like the world is too much for you. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's all
No,
I've
of
got.
course, Rowan, these are great questions.
Thank you. That's all I've got. So if you have anything
No.
to add, feel free.
Um, I don't think I have much more to add. It's just that I think the older that you get, people get a little jaded because they think, oh, we've been doing so much, but the needle hasn't shifted a lot. So I think when it's in the beginning, when you want to start fighting for something or taking a stand for something, I think that you also need to have like a little pinch of salt and say that the needle's not going to shift overnight. So you have to think super long term that, okay, 6 months from now, one person's going to feel comfortable enough to talk to me about something that I have been speaking for across these 6 months. So I sort of mix practicality with idealism, and then you can't go wrong. Just that.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like we can't be too unrealistic, but you can always hope for the best.
Exactly.
Yeah.